Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
I think it's rare now that we're reporting it.
A watchdog group speaking out against victims being jailed and traumatized.
How do we react? It's more out of panic.
Students at the Capitol to lobby a bill giving them say in their school safety.
We still have it. It helps, but it's not curing the problems that we have today.
A move toward new ways to stop those annoying robocalls.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Much more on those top headlines in just a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, a look at other stories making headlines across the state. A tornado killed 2 people early Thursday in Ruston. The twister ripped through the city and campus of Louisiana Tech around 2:30 in the morning. A mother and her son died when a tree fell on their home. Lincoln Parish Sheriff Mike Stone saying, "I've never seen it this bad in my 43 years. It's tragic and it's going to be a while before we can get it all cleaned up." Other tornadoes and damage were reported throughout the state, which has been under severe weather watches and warnings as that weather system approached. Louisiana Tech remains closed. At one point, as much as 75% of the town of 24,000 was without power. Governor John Bel Edwards is calling for 3 debates with his Republican challengers in the Louisiana governor's race this fall. The Democratic incumbent said Wednesday that he wants 3 hour-long TV debates between Republican contenders Ralph Abraham and Eddie Rispone between September 2nd and the October 12th election. Edwards says he already accepted a debate invitation for September 19th in Baton Rouge to be televised statewide by Nexstar. He says he's searching for 2 more forums that could be shown on TV across Louisiana, held in different parts of the state. State police revealing a security breach at the governor's mansion, saying they arrested a man last week who trespassed into the building and damaged an antique table before falling asleep on a couch. The 34-year-old man from Baton Rouge was booked on April 17th on counts including simple burglary, simple trespass, and criminal damage to property. An artificial reef has been created near the Louisiana coast to protect several historic Native American mounds from erosion and rising sea levels. The Times-Picayune reporting the Montague Reef was built this month by the Pointe-au-Chien Indian tribe, Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana, and volunteers. About 200 tons of oyster shells were collected from New Orleans area restaurants and repurposed to build the partially submerged reef. This is the second such reef built in Louisiana by the Coalition, which started its oyster shell recycling program in 2014. In 2016, the Coalition used about 4,000 tons of recycled shells to build half-a-mile-long reef in St. Bernard Parish. A Northeast Louisiana festival will celebrate the Poverty Point World Heritage Site instead of sweet potatoes. The prehistoric complex of Indian mounds known as Poverty Point in West Carroll Parish was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2014. It was named after a nearby 19th century plantation, but was created and used more than 3,500 years ago. The site sits about 15 miles south of Oak Grove, where the festival was held. Since being named a World Heritage Site in 2014, it's seen a sizable increase in visitors from all over the world. The rebranded Poverty Point World Heritage Festival is tentatively set for March 26th through 29th of next year. The Lamb Weston North Louisiana Sweet Potato Festival will move to the first weekend in October during harvest season. The Oak Grove Chamber says it will keep the festival midway and other familiar attractions, but might add cooking demonstrations from Poverty Point and get local Native American tribes involved.
Sounds great for them. It has been a busy week for lawmakers at the state capitol. Here is a wrap of some of the highlights. A renewed shot at boosting the minimum wage paid to Louisiana workers is edging ahead in the Senate. Much tougher hurdles remain. The proposal by New Orleans Democratic Senator Troy Carter would set the state minimum wage at $9 an hour. That's up from the current $7.25 an hour. The full Senate takes a look next. A bill to extend the state historic tax credit to the year 2026 passed, but with a catch. Republican Representative Cameron Henry amended the bill to include an annual monetary cap on the credits. The tax credit has allowed for the revival of historic buildings throughout the state, buildings of cultural importance. It's widely seen as the reason for the comeback of downtown Baton Rouge. A recent report from the Lieutenant Governor's office says from 2009 to 2018, $3.7 billion was invested in Louisiana because of historic tax credits. Women seeking an abortion would have to get lengthy background info about the doctor doing the procedure. This from a proposal that won unanimous support from state senators. Opponents say the proposal tries to create problems for abortion access. A proposal to legalize sports betting at state casinos and racetracks is advancing in the Senate. The measure by Kenner Republican Senator Danny Martini went to the full Senate. Similar legislation failed to gain traction last year, but Martini hopes a U.S. Supreme Court decision allowing sports betting, plus the legalization in Mississippi and Arkansas, could change minds. A bid to prohibit state agencies from keeping victims of sexual harassment silent in settlements involving public money has received backing from House lawmakers. The House voted unanimously to send the proposal to the Senate. Selected members of the Louisiana Youth Advisory Council pitched a bill to lawmakers this week at the Capitol, Senate Bill 43. The purpose of the bill is to give students a voice in the discussion of school emergencies, like a campus shooting, a voice before the next shooting and also after. We were there as they took the first step.
My name is Andrew Gary. I'm representing the Louisiana Legislative Youth Advisory Council, and I'm a junior at St. Martin's Episcopal School in Metairie, Louisiana. The story of Senate Bill 43 really starts after Parkland, when I decided I'm tired of looking at these as an issue of politics. Let's look at it as an issue of emergency management, because school safety fundamentally is emergency management. And in emergency management, there's this principle. It's called the whole community approach. Whole community approach is pretty simple. It says involve all the stakeholders, because every stakeholder brings something to the table. And when I looked at school safety, I noticed we weren't involving a major stakeholder, the student body, especially high schoolers, since they're mature enough to be involved in this discussion. So Senate Bill 43 rectifies the situation. It allows high schoolers to be involved in the discussion of the safety of their schools, and allows for their input to be heard and recognized by the school administration.
One question that many of you are probably asking is, why do we need this bill? We believe our bill is essential for many different reasons. By implementing students' input to school crisis management, you get a different point of view that might not necessarily be always recognized. I mean, most of the adults in our high school haven't been in high school for about 20 years. If you add a student's input to this, that you get a fresh perspective that many have probably already thought about. This also improves our school morale. Most of our students, we don't want them to feel like, oh, what will I do for this? With this bill, that will push students to think about how to help their peers and how will we save a lot of people instead of just themselves.
If this bill did get passed and I were to be that student on the committee or being involved in this, what would I do differently than I've already been doing? And I'd feel more accountable for my fellow students and for my school in general. And I'd feel more responsibility to make choices that benefit everybody. So I might say, well, why don't we get local police to come here and to see if they can do something about safety, see if they can talk to us about things that they've seen around, and to just educate us more. I might put forth the extra effort to get local police to come here and talk to us.
As a senior, I feel like I'm not prepared to go to college because I don't know any safety plans. Like if an active shooter were to come on campus anywhere, I wouldn't know anything to do except run, because it's a private school. We don't get taught the same run, fight, hide things that public schools are taught. We don't get drilled that from elementary to high school at all. So it's just fend for yourself. So I feel like our input would impact our students and our future forever. And with this bill in place, that would make sure that would happen.
It's a shame the world we live in has exposed you all, because you should be thinking about your ACT and your college and your boyfriends or whatever. I'm sorry for the world we've left you all.
Based on the compelling statements my fellow LIAC members have presented today, we humbly request you grant favorable passage for this bill. Thank you so much for your time and attention.
Without objection, Senate Bill 43 will be reported as amended. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you, Senator White, for your hard work,
to all of you speakers.
It's really important because we have to leave behind something great for our younger kids, like the juniors. They will be following in our footsteps, and we don't want to leave them left behind. We don't want to leave them high and dry without any clue what to do whenever something happens like that.
Many of us have faced issues and challenges where we feel unsafe in our schools. We feel like teachers may not be trained, or we may not be trained as students, or there's no plan in place. And today we've came here to say, well, what's our place in all of this? What can we do to make ourselves more safe, to make our teachers more safe, to make the rest of our student body more safe?
And you cleared the first hurdle anyway, right, in this process?
Yes, sir. We definitely made a big jump today, and we're excited to see where this bill goes.
When I'm on this committee, I talk about issues that the faculty don't think of, like cyberbullying and depression. And all those things contribute to those bigger problems like school shootings. And so when we started crafting Senate Bill 43, I said we have to bring the students in, but let the principals figure out the details of all of that. As long as the students are involved, we've accomplished what we want to achieve. Every school shooting, like for example the Parkland one, the kid had been depressed and there are people who knew about it. So they could have prevented the entire incident if they had addressed those underlying problems. So when we're looking at school safety, I say we have to approach it holistically.
I think what's special about the Legislative Youth Advisory Council is it's not just a mock trial. Like, the students really are here. They really are in the process. They're meeting with senators. They're in committee. That really is civics come to life.
Next, the bill will go to the Senate floor and then likely to the House. We will keep up with it each step of the way.
Should victims of domestic violence and rape be put in jail for refusing to testify? Louisiana prosecutors seem to think so. A bill making its way through the legislature is aimed to stop what it outlines as re-victimizing the victim. We took a trip to New Orleans to talk with Court Watch NOLA, who has joined the fight in what they say is the use and abuse of material witness warrants. Renata Singleton spent 5 days in jail in 2015, although she had not committed a crime.
The guy I was dating at the time and I had an argument. He took my cell phone and proceeded to leave with it. The cops came and immediately put the handcuffs on him, and the other came inside to talk to me.
She says she called for help, and at first it looked like she was getting it, but
one day I came home from work and there was a piece of paper. It was a subpoena. I arrived at the DA office. I remember asking, do I get a lawyer? Can I speak with a lawyer? And they were like, no, you're not the criminal, you're the witness. And I was like, I don't feel like a witness, I feel like a criminal right now. And yeah, so the cop came in and put the handcuffs on me.
Advocates say it's a case of a victim of crime being re-victimized.
We know that other jurisdictions have done away with this practice.
The practice of arresting victims of crimes like domestic violence and rape and holding them in jail until they testify against the person accused of hurting them.
We know that now that we have put a lens on this practice here in New Orleans, that our numbers have gone down. And that's sort of the importance of the work that we do at Court Watch NOLA.
Simone Levine is executive director of Court Watch NOLA, a watchdog group who monitors court proceedings, collecting data and analyzing court rulings. The organization, now more than a decade old, says the court watchers began noticing victims coming to court in custody back in 2016. They say the victims were being arrested because of a court order known as a material witness warrant, which allows prosecutors to temporarily lock up crime victims who are reluctant to testify. These warrants are used around the country in several types of cases, but Senate Bill 146 could end the practice in Louisiana.
So individuals are picked up in their home, they're picked up at their houses, at their places of work, at school, disrupts everything. People lose jobs as a result of these things, and then they're brought to court.
The bill has crossed its first hurdle, making it out of a Senate committee, and now goes to the House floor for a vote. As it's written now, it would stop these warrants from being used against survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault.
It was a very significant bill.
State Senator J.P. Moreau, a Democrat from New Orleans, sponsored the bill after Court Watch NOLA pointed out that the city's district attorney temporarily jailed at least 2 women in 2016 who had survived rape and domestic violence.
The idea that you could be a victim of a sexual assault, domestic violence, that for whatever reason, there are a plethora of reasons that you could be arrested to testify, and the fact that you could be put in jail and made to wait to testify is wholly inappropriate. Now, there's always the process of subpoenaing someone to appear before a trial.
Senator Morrell says the practice traumatizes the survivors who've done nothing wrong. He says the use of material witness warrants against these survivors is, quote, egregious.
You have instances in New Orleans, for example, where people were jailed to testify longer than the ultimate sentence of the person who committed the crime.
This week, the Louisiana District Attorneys Association spoke out against the proposed legislation, arguing that it is sometimes necessary to detain abuse victims so they can help convict people who committed violent crimes. In a statement, the New Orleans District Attorney called the practice necessary. In each instance, the witness testimony was deemed critical to preventing a dangerous offender from walking free to victimize others, says Leon Canizaro. The ACLU filed a lawsuit in 2017 on behalf of Renata Singleton and others who were jailed or threatened with detention. One rape victim spent 12 days in jail before her first court appearance, the suit says. A victim of child sex trafficking was jailed for 89 days, including Christmas and New Year's Day, before she had a chance to challenge her incarceration. The New Orleans City Council passed 2 resolutions urging the DA to end the practice, but they say he's declined to do so. He and other prosecutors call it a tool that is necessary to use on rare occasions. They told senators material witness warrants are rarely ever used. The group estimates out of 750,000 cases from 2012 to 2017, roughly 150 material witness warrants were approved by judges in Louisiana, and that only a few of those were against sexual assault or domestic violence victims. But Levine says any use of material witness warrants against domestic violence and rape victims should be prohibited.
I think it's rare now that we're reporting it. I think that that's the reality. I think before we reported it that we had heard anecdotally that there were misdemeanor cases. These are your less serious cases that are in municipal court. There were misdemeanor cases where victims were being arrested, domestic violence victims were being arrested and incarcerated.
And for Singleton, the mother of 3 who was forced to spend time behind bars, she says even years after the fact, it's hard to believe it happened to her, the victim of the crime.
I couldn't believe they put me in jail, and I'm in there because I called the cops for getting the cell phone broke.
Now, we're told prosecutors and Senator Moreau are working on a compromise to his bill that will work to help prosecutors get the evidence they need without what advocates say is re-victimizing the victims. We'll be following this story and bring you any updates.
A man behind one of the nation's most notorious racial hate crimes was put to death by lethal injection this week in Texas. In Louisiana, a bill this session would make it easier to get the lethal injection drugs to allow executions to resume.
2 other bills would abolish the death sentence. Louisiana Public Square heard from opponents and proponents of the death penalty this week.
I was on death row, and I went at the age of 21, and I was falsely convicted.
What happened?
My son, he died of serious pneumonia, and I was charged with it of smothering, and I went to prison for it, and I was 21.
The evidence that we have shows that Louisiana disproportionately targets people of color in capital charging and sentencing. It also shows that Louisiana has one of the highest rates of exonerations and one of the highest rates of death penalty convictions that are later overturned.
Do you think when we were told that our daughter was killed that we asked if he was purple or gray or black or green? No. He killed our daughter. We lost one of the most precious things in our life other than our son. So, do I have any sympathy for him? None at all.
Well, I think violence beget violence. I think death is so finite and so permanent that taking a life is not, it's a form of violence, whether it's the government executing or the violence on the street. If we are really going to practice life and the sanctity of life, I would have to say that we have to protect it.
You've had 7 states that have abolished the death penalty since 2007. And if you look at those 7 states, a lot of them are very tiny states. Again, numbers are hard. At least in Maryland, for example, and New Mexico, the rate of murder skyrocketed right after they abolished the death penalty. Now, there have only been 2 or 3 years since those states have abolished it. But that's true. I can show you the statistics from the Death Penalty Information Center, for example, that show that.
Do you realize that since 2017 that 53 people convicted of first degree in the state of Louisiana have had their sentences commuted by the pardon board? Did you know that? 53. And as a prosecutor, I know there are times when I took a plea to first or second degree carries a life sentence also. I took the death penalty off the table and I took that plea and I told the family that that person who killed their loved one would be there forever. I can't tell them that anymore because I don't know.
I have never heard a discussion, a decision made to either prosecute or not prosecute the death penalty made on the basis of the race of either the defendant or the victim. The victim does not get to choose the race of the person that murders them.
People will say, oh, those exonerations are from the bad old days when prosecutors were misbehaving or defense lawyers weren't well trained. Rodriguez was convicted of a crime he didn't commit and sentenced to death only a few years ago under the modern system. There are just some things human beings shouldn't be messing with. We're not good enough for it.
The Penalty of Death re-airs this Sunday at 11 o'clock on LPB. You can view additional sound bites plus read the text from the proposed death penalty legislation at lpb.org/public square.
Well, a new generation of robocalls is infiltrating the very thing we are never without, our cell phones. You get an incoming call from a number that looks like it could be from a neighbor. Instead, it's a voice offering to help pay off a student loan that you never even had. The topic was first on the agenda at today's Public Service Commission meeting. We talked with North Louisiana Commissioner Foster Campbell about how he hopes to end these unwanted calls. The do not call list as we knew it does not work anymore.
Well, it's not working good. We still have it. It helps, but it's not curing the problems that we have today.
And you're the man who initiated it.
I passed it 20 years ago when I was in the Senate. It was great for a while. That was before we had all the internet and we had so many ways to get around telephone calls. Now it's an epidemic. Everywhere I go, if I go to a restaurant at night, people know I'm the Public Service Commissioner. They're coming up and saying, hey, you got to do something, man.
They're asking you to do something.
This is your job.
Well, I could too, because I get a dozen a day.
Yeah, that'd be normal if you said, hey, what are you going to do for me?
Hey, Brianna here with information about helping you make $10,000 every 10 days using automated voicemail drops.
You addressed the Public Service Commission today to take steps to deal with this.
Yeah, we have to deal with it. And that's why this was our first thing on our agenda today. Was talking about this problem that we have in Louisiana. It's out of control. We have a bunch of outlaws doing business in Louisiana. They know better than that. They're breaking the law. They don't seem to care. I'm recommending that we have strong penalties, and I want to work with these companies to help them help us find out who are doing these calls. They're using their lines, so they've got to have some kind of contact with them. So we're going to do everything we can to stop this in Louisiana. I would like to see Louisiana be the toughest state in the United States on these calls.
Yeah, so this is Deborah Rose. I'm calling in reference to your federal student loan. I need to discuss your repayment options with some new changes that have taken effect recently.
And I hope that we pass some penalties that they're going to have to think about it and say, well, we don't need to do business in Louisiana because that's going to cost us thousands of dollars per call. That's what I want to recommend. Thousands of dollars, $5,000 per call if they're calling people, and they shouldn't be calling them.
How effective can putting some of these things in place, how effective can it be?
It can be real effective if we work together and get a good system. The first do not call program that we passed 20 years ago was very effective. People congratulated us on it all the time. We had one company in Louisiana that put on aluminum siding, and they called people all the time about putting on aluminum siding. We charged them $300,000 or $400,000. They had to pay it. It stopped it. So that's what these companies are going to have. Somebody's got to get their attention. Right now that, they know they got penalties, they can get by with it, or if they get caught, they pay a few dollars. But that's not going to happen anymore. I am recommending that they be charged $5,000 a call. So if one company does 100 calls in a day, that's $500,000. That'll get their attention.
Now, during that short interview, I found 3 robocall messages left on my phone. You heard 2 of them there. We'll let you know what action the commission moves with as they go forward.
I got 5 of them yesterday.
Yeah, and you know how I react to it.
Yes.
I scream at my phone.
You do.
Hey, that's our show for this week, everyone. Remember, you can watch LPB on demand on your phone or tablet with our LPB Anywhere app.
The download is free from your app store. You can catch LPB News and public affairs shows and other Louisiana programs you've come to love over the years. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
I'm Natasha Williams.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Support comes from
Entergy provides much more than power. We support science and engineering at local schools to build a brighter path to better jobs and help prepare the next generation. Because together, we power life. Entergy.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.